Over the last couple of months, as my siblings and I have been dealing with my mom's situation, and as I've turned to Jesus, I've turned to God in prayer. In certain ways, I've questioned my own motivation as to what exactly I should be praying for. It is a difficult situation as my mom loses essentially more and more of her memory. She's gathering more into dementia. What is the right thing? If I'm looking simply to myself, I want my mom as long as possible. But as I look to what is best for her, I come with a different answer. And so as I gather in prayer in that moment, it really is about seeking from the Lord what is best. And that ultimately is my prayer. Lord, do whatever is best for my mom and help me to understand that. Help me to understand what to truly pray for, because I am uncertain. As we turn to Jesus, many times that has to be our question. What is our motivation? What is it we are truly looking for? When the people came to find Jesus, he made it very clear. He knew what they were looking for. More food. They were filled, and that's what impressed them, that they weren't hungry right now. They weren't looking for signs. They didn't care about the teaching. They cared about the fact that they were physically fed. And so as their motivation for Jesus was very different than what it was supposed to be. As Jesus makes it clear, your motivation should be the gift that God desires to give to you. Not seeking what you want, but rather desiring to seek what it is that God desires to give to you, which, quite frankly, is not always the same thing. In fact, if we're really honest with ourselves, most of the time, it's not the same thing. And it comes down to many times we believe we know better than God what is good and what is necessary, what is best. And so, as we open our hearts to this truth, we again need to ask ourselves, what motivates us? We can ask that question just as we come here today, coming to this church, coming to this celebration of the Eucharist. What draws us here? Is it because of what we think we might get out of it? Is it because we think we're doing, well, let's be honest, God a favor by coming? And that idea comes from, I'm coming because I want to. I have to be really honest with you. God doesn't care if you want to be here. That's irrelevant. We should be here for one reason only, because God has invited us here, and because God desires us to be here. Our motivation should be what God is calling us to do, not what we want to do. Because ultimately, God, by calling us here, by drawing us to this celebration, desires to give to us the greatest of gifts possible. As Jesus tells us, I am the bread of life. Whoever comes to me will never hunger, and whoever believes in me will never thirst. Our God desires to give us the gift of himself, that very gift of life. And we know at this altar that a great miracle will occur. bread and wine will be transformed into the very body and blood of Jesus Christ. Not a symbol, not a sign, but the reality of Jesus himself. Really, truly, substantially given to us in the gift of the Eucharist. God draws us here because he desires to give us the gift of his very self. And that should ultimately be our motivation, to receive the gift that God desires to give us. Because ultimately, that is how Jesus came to live his entire life. By seeking only to know what God's will was for him, and to do nothing other than that. God's will is what motivated everything that Jesus did. And what is true of Jesus must be true of ourselves, or we are not Christians. It really is that simple. As we come here then, as we prepare to receive the greatest of gifts possible, as we come to hold in our hands, to place in our mouth the gift of our God, his very presence given to us in the Eucharist. May we begin to open our hearts to truly seek and understand that simple question. As we turn to Jesus in our need, as we come to the Lord and place ourselves before him, what is our true motivation?